Another day, another solution. Let's talk dirt. There are two basic types of easements in Texas, an easement appurtenant and an easement in gross. An easement appurtenant attaches to the land. If the land is sold, the easement automatically transfers to the new owner. An easement in gross is personal in nature. It belongs to a specific person only. If that person sells the land, the easement does not automatically transfer. That's the difference. An easement appurtenant follows the land, an easement in gross follows a person. And when property is sold, that difference can really matter. Now let's go back to the shared driveway scenario. If the driveway easement is an easement appurtenant, that means it benefits the property itself. When the benefiting property is sold, the new owner automatically receives the same driveway rights. In other words, the easement runs with the land. It transfers because it is tied to the property, not the individual owner. In Texas, most private driveway and access easements between neighbors are appurtenant. Unless the document clearly says otherwise, courts will likely consider it an appurtenant easement. Now let's change just one detail. The neighbors trust each other. They get along. The surveying landowner says, "Hey, I'll allow the driveway use, but only for you. I don't want this right automatically passing to some future owner." So the agreement is written to make the driveway right personal. That is an easement in gross. An easement in gross belongs to the person, not to the land. Now, fast forward. The benefiting neighbor sells the property. Does the new owner automatically receive driveway rights? No, because an easement in gross does not follow the land. It stays with the individual, and it may even terminate when that individual no longer owns the property. Same driveway, same property, different type of easement, different outcome. When Texas courts decide whether an easement is appurtenant or in gross, they look first at the written document. They're looking for language tying the easement to a specific parcel of land. They're looking for language limiting it to a named individual, whether it states it runs with the land, whether assignment is allowed. In other words, the wording in the easement really matters. Now, here's an important question. What if the easement document does not say whether it's appurtenant or in gross? In Texas, the general rule is this. If the document is silent, courts usually presume that the easement is appurtenant. That means courts tend to treat it as attached to the land, unless the language clearly shows it was intended to be personal. So silence does not automatically make it personal. But silence also does not override clear wording that limits it to a person. The entire document is read together to determine intent. Sometimes neighbors intentionally create an easement in gross because they are making a personal arrangement. They may not want increased traffic, commercial use, future subdivision, unknown owners. But if a buyer assumes the easement is appurtenant and it turns out to be personal, that buyer could end up without legal access. And access disputes are very expensive in Texas. So here's the key takeaway. An easement appurtenant transfers when the land is sold. An easement in gross does not automatically transfer. And if the document is silent, Texas courts generally presume it is appurtenant, unless the language clearly shows otherwise. Before buying property in Texas, especially property that depends on an easement for access, confirm which type you have, because once you close, it may be too late. Now that you understand the difference between an easement appurtenant and an easement in gross, and what happens if the document is silent, the next question becomes, how are easements created in Texas? Because not all easements come from written agreements. Some arise by necessity, some by implication, some by long-term use. And those are the disputes that usually end up in court. We'll cover that in the next video. If this video was informative, please make sure and hit the like button and subscribe below. I always like to remind viewers that these videos are not meant as legal advice. If you need help with a matter, you can contact us in the links below. As always, thanks for watching.